my opinion, one of the most interesting examples of business failure in recent times was that of the Juicero, or the Juicero, depending on how you want to pronounce it. So the Juicero was a company that produced this product called the Juicero Press, which basically allowed you to purchase via subscription through a phone app packs of pre-processed or pre-cut fruits and vegetables in little pouches, and you would put those pouches in this Juicero Press, and then you would have this delicious freshly squeezed fruit and vegetable juice. And it was sort of this bizarre mix of SaaS subscription model meets very high-end overproduced product, meets an idea that the marketplace didn't really need and probably will never need. I'm not going to go into all the specifics about what happened. Suffice it to say, it is a fascinating story. If you're interested in learning more, I can really recommend an episode of a podcast called Desperate Acts of Capitalism, which talks about the Juicero Press and its failure. I'll leave a link in the video description. It's a really good podcast, actually very informative, not too political or anything like that. It's just all these interesting stories about companies that failed in one way or another. But the Juicero Press was basically a disaster, and it was all downhill the moment a reporter revealed that they could actually get just as good an outcome by squeezing by hand one of the juice packs as they could by using this incredibly expensive juicing press, which I think off the top of my head retailed at launch for about $600 or $700 US. And it was a fascinating story. It was completely over-engineered, so very expensive to produce. People who took it apart, who are knowledgeable on machining and product manufacturing, said it was one of the best manufactured products they've ever seen, but total overkill. Just a totally fascinating story. And there's actually some relevancy here for marketing. Something that's been on my mind recently and was sparked again when a person called Sam Grover, who I recommend you check out his LinkedIn profile, I'll leave a link in the description as well, commented on one of my posts on my Facebook group about digital marketing with some really insightful commentary about the fact that you cannot just paper over a bad business with good marketing. So if you've got a product market fit mismatch, if you've got a value proposition issue, so the market can't see the value of the product or service you provide, or if you've got a deliverability issue, so you can take orders but you can't fulfill them, or you can't fulfill them profitably, marketing's probably not going to solve that. Marketing kind of needs to come along after you've determined what problem you're solving, after you've determined what the value of your solution is, after you've determined that the market's going to be willing to pay for that product or service or solution. And sometimes marketing can play into that by testing. If you've ever read The 4-Hour Workweek, you'll probably know what I'm talking about there. But certainly marketing cannot just plaster over the cracks of a fundamentally defective business. And the Juicero was a great example of that. This business raised huge amounts of capital. They had quite a big marketing budget. They got a lot of coverage in all sorts of different press, online and offline. But ultimately it was a flop, and it was a flop because it was a product no one wanted and no one needed, and it was far too expensive. And it was actually terrible value for money and had all sorts of other appalling quirks, like the fact that your juicing pouches could be remotely deactivated if they were out of date. So you could buy these $8, $9 juice pouches, and if the date that the QR code reader had to read was not in date, then guess what? You didn't get to enjoy your juice. So there is a classic example of a business that failed despite pretty good marketing from what I can gather, simply because there was an enormous mismatch between what the owners had come up with, or what the business owners had developed, and what the market actually wanted. And I think more businesses need to think about this. If you've got a good business model, if you've got a good value proposition, if you've got product market fit, then get stuck into marketing. But don't just think that marketing is going to solve all your problems. If your business is in a position where you're going to find it hard no matter what you do to convince people of your value because the value is not there, or because you just can't deliver what you claim to be able to deliver, or you can't deliver it profitably so you can actually grow your business, then marketing is going to be sort of negligible in value at best, or possibly even detrimental at worst. If you're selling more of a product that you can't supply, for example, eventually that's going to catch up with you and people are going to get fairly frustrated with what you're doing. So just some food for thought there, or should I say some juice for thought. Like I said, if you've got a business model that is fundamentally not quite right, so your product market fit is not good, you don't communicate your value proposition well, bearing in mind that in the absence of value, people question the price, or you're just not able to supply your product or service profitably or supply it properly at all. Don't rely on marketing. It's not going to get you the results you want. It might be a temporary fix, but in the long run, things are going to catch up with you. So yeah, I welcome your input on this topic. Hopefully, you've got an interesting take you can share. Please feel free to comment. I welcome any agreements. I welcome any disagreements as well. If you found this video interesting, please like and subscribe. Check the link or check the links below the video for links to that podcast I was talking about, and also to Sam Grover's LinkedIn profile. And thanks to him once again for that really insightful comment he made. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching.